Welcome back to this new chapter on controlling. In this lecture, we will begin with the meaning and characteristics of controlling, then move to its advantages and limitations. After that, we will look at the 3 types of control and walk through the 4-step control process. We will then examine how planning and controlling are connected. And finally, we will end with the major control techniques, both traditional and modern, along with a brief look at IT controls. So let's begin at the foundation. Friends, controlling is the last step in the management process. It comes after planning, organizing, staffing and directing. And its job is simple but powerful. That is to make sure that what actually happens in an organization matches what was planned. This means gathering information, spotting deviations from expected results, and taking the necessary corrective steps. Controlling also ensures resources are used efficiently, and it investigates not just that a variation happened, but why it happened. When done well, it improves quality, reduces waste, and helps the organization grow. Friends, one key point to hold on to is that controlling must be continuous and accurate. A one-time check is not controlling, it has to be an ongoing discipline. So what does controlling actually do for an organization? Friends, in simple terms, it helps achieve organizational goals, it promotes efficient use of resources, it ensures standards are correctly applied, and it builds discipline across the organization. It also motivates employees because when performance is being measured and monitored, people tend to bring their best. And it also supports future planning because the data generated through controlling helps refine strategies going forward. Next, let's look at advantages of controlling. Friends, controlling aligns actual performance with planned objectives and minimizes errors through monitoring and corrective action. It reduces wastage, validates standards through comparison with benchmarks, improves discipline, motivates staff, and ensures coordination. It also simplifies supervision, supports delegation and decentralization, and provides feedback for future planning. Next, let's understand the limitations. Friends, controlling can be costly, especially for small firms. This is because it is difficult to measure non-quantitative standards like morale or satisfaction. Also, external factors such as policies or competition remain uncontrollable.
Friends, do you know after the recent CAIIB syllabus revision, the pass percentage has dropped sharply to just 20.77%. And these are not just my figures. These are as per official ABFM data. But what's the reason for such a sharp downfall? Well, the main reason is not that bankers are not studying enough. Now, there are primarily 2 important factors that have led to this massive fall. First is increase of syllabus from 3 papers to 5 papers. Friends, for bankers, CAIIB was already a bit more challenging than JIB, but with addition of 2 more papers, the difficulty has crossed over the roof. Then second and bigger reason is non-availability of smart preparation resources. Luckily for you, there's now a solution. Let me introduce you to my CAIIB Masters Pack, which is created specifically for the new CAIIB syllabus and upgraded exam pattern. For each paper of CAIIB, you get a summarized notes book covering entire syllabus in my own words, in depth but not bulky. Friends, if you are serious about clearing CAIIB in your very next attempt, then stop wasting time with scattered resources. Click the link below, grab your CAIIB Masters Pack and start preparing smart.
Next, employees may resist control if they feel their freedom is restricted. Lastly, over-reliance on control may weaken supervision. Rigid control may slow operations, and incorrect controls may increase errors and frauds. Now we move to types of control management. Friends, control management is divided into 3 types based on timing. The first is feedback control. Please remember, feedback control is applied after an activity is completed. It evaluates outcomes and takes corrective action for deviations. For example, if a sales target is missed, performance is reviewed after sales and the strategy may be revised. Then second is proactive control. Friends, proactive control anticipates future events and prepares solutions in advance. Actually, its focus is prevention. For example, if a bank expects more loan defaults during an economic downturn, then it may introduce stricter loan issuance criteria beforehand. Finally, third is concurrent control. Now, concurrent control is applied while an activity is being performed. It is in fact real-time monitoring. For example, during loan processing, real-time checks on the borrower's creditworthiness through an automated system are concurrent control. Next, let's look at control process. Friends, please remember the control process follows 4 clear logical steps. Step 1 is establishing goals and standards. This is where it all begins. Goals must be clearly defined and specifically communicated, whether they are tangible targets or more qualitative expectations. When everyone understands what success looks like, commitment follows naturally. Step 2 is comparing actual performance with standards. Managers measure what is actually happening and compare it to what was planned. Now, this comparison may use financial metrics, customer feedback, or even qualitative indicators like the organization's reputation in the market. Then step 3 is taking corrective actions. When a gap is identified, managers must move quickly. The root cause must first be diagnosed before a solution is designed. Because complex problems may need customized solutions and not just a standard fix applied uniformly. Finally, step 4 is monitoring the effect of those corrective actions. Friends, taking action is not the end of the story. Managers must track whether the correction actually worked. Evaluation should continue until the problem is fully resolved. And the entire experience becomes learning material for handling similar issues in the future. Now we come to the relation between planning and control. Friends, planning and controlling are deeply interconnected. You cannot meaningfully separate one from the other. Planning sets the destination while controlling ensures you are actually moving toward it. There are in fact 5 key relationships between them. First, planning defines objectives and direction, while control ensures that objectives are being met. Next, planning provides the foundation for control, and controlling measures actual performance, identifies deviations, and takes corrective action based on planned targets. Next, planning without controlling is ineffective because progress cannot be monitored or corrected. Then controlling without planning is meaningless because there are no benchmarks for comparison. Lastly, planning is creative and strategic, while controlling is corrective and evaluative. Friends, the key relationships are simple. That is, planning originates control, and control supports long-term planning. Also, control provides feedback. As you can see, both are sequentially linked and forward-looking. Now we move to control techniques in management. Friends, control techniques are tools that help managers monitor business activities and take corrective action. Now, methods may be traditional or modern, and selection depends on the nature of the company, target users, and current challenges. Please remember, personal observation is the most direct traditional method, which is also referred to as on-the-spot or direct observation. As you know, a manager physically watches employees as they work. This gives first-hand real-time information for immediate analysis. It keeps employees attentive and performing well. Also, it allows deviations to be spotted and corrected on the spot, and it opens the door to immediate discussion of any issues. The limitation is that it demands significant managerial time, and if not handled with sensitivity, it can create pressure among employees. The second technique is break-even analysis. Friends, break-even analysis, also known as cost, volume, and profit analysis, evaluates the relationship between costs and output at different production levels. The break-even point is where total revenue equals total cost. The formula is simply break-even point equals fixed cost divided by the difference between price and variable cost. Here, fixed costs are those that remain constant regardless of production, such as rent and salaries. Then variable costs change with output such as raw materials and direct labor. Here the two important components, that is, the contribution margin, which is the selling price per unit minus the variable cost per unit, and the margin of safety, which tells you how much sales can fall before the business hits the break-even point. Then third technique is statistical reports. Friends, statistical reports use numerical data including averages, percentages, ratios, and the coefficient of determination to evaluate performance across departments. This data is presented visually through charts, graphs, and tables. This is the most widely used and effective method for organizational data analysis. The fourth technique is budgetary control. Friends, budgetary control links planning directly to performance monitoring. Company-wide objectives are subdivided into departmental targets. Actual performance is then compared against these budgeted figures, and corrective action is taken based on the resulting variances. Common budget types include the cash budget, sales budget, production budget, capital budget, and material budget. Please note poorly formulated budgets can be both costly and misleading. Next, let's look at some modern control techniques. First is return on investment, also known as the DuPont method, which measures the profit earned from invested capital. The formula is net income divided by sales multiplied by sales divided by total investment. Please note return on investment can be improved either by growing sales at a faster rate than investment or by reducing investment while maintaining the same level of sales. It is used to compare financial performance across time periods, across companies, and across internal departments, and it helps attract investors. Next, we have financial statement and ratio analysis, which evaluates a company's financial health through 4 groups of ratios. Here, profitability ratios measure the ability to generate profit relative to revenue, assets, or equity. Then liquidity ratios assess whether the company can meet its short-term obligations. Next, solvency ratios evaluate long-term financial stability. And turnover ratios indicate how efficiently assets are being used to generate sales. Next, we have responsibility accounting, which is a system where accountability for financial performance is assigned to specific employees. Each person is responsible for their portion of the organization's results. There are 4 responsibility centers. First, revenue center is accountable for generating revenue. Next, cost center is a unit that incurs cost but does not directly generate revenue. Then profit center manages both revenue generation and cost control. Finally, an investment center manages profits as well as investments with performance typically measured through return on investment. Friends, this approach works particularly well in large organizations with distinct departments and clearly defined roles. Then PERT and critical path method are project management control techniques. Critical path method identifies the longest chain of dependent tasks in a project and ensures it stays on schedule. Next, PERT or program evaluation and review technique represents project activities in their correct sequence and timing, helping teams schedule, organize, and integrate tasks for smooth execution. Next, we have Management Information System, which provides reliable, timely information that supports decision-making across banking and business operations. It covers 2 core functions, which are collecting data and then managing that data by organizing, storing, and delivering it to the right people at the right time. Please note MIS is cost-effective and critical for sound informed decisions. Next concept is of management audit, which examines how effectively an organization uses its resources. It is initiated by top-level management and is periodic in nature, typically conducted every 2 to 3 years based on a board decision. It follows the financial audit and focuses on the overall management process rather than financial records alone. Please remember, management audit is not mandatory, but it offers valuable scrutiny of how the organization is being managed. Finally, your chapter also covers IT general controls. Now, these govern access, development, operations, change management, version control, incident management, backup planning, and physical security. Friends, with this you now have a complete picture of controlling. You understand what controlling is, why it matters, how it connects to planning, how the control process works step by step, and which techniques managers rely on to keep performance on track.